My name is Jen Richards and I'm currently a serving member of 35 years. I joined the Air Force in 1983 at the ripe young age of 17. Initially I joined up as a chef and I had various postings as a cook. In my time as a cook I made the rank of corporal and I always aspired to become a recruit instructor, so I had a break from cooking for 5 years. I then went back to my mustering as a cook, and following that I had always aspired to be a warrant officer disciplinary. At the time of joining the Air Force, that was a job that was not available to me because I was told you could never do that because it's not open to females. Thankfully times changed, and as years progressed I was able to be nominated to undertake the training to become a warrant officer disciplinary, and it has been since then my role in the Royal Australian Air Force. I guess the thing I loved about being a cook was the creativity. I think there was one that I thought was amazingly silly afterwards, but I enjoyed the challenge at the time. We have formal dinners, and so when you put the menu together, my great idea was to have individual Black Forest gâteaux, and I had to make 120 of those. And I think I started at like 5 o'clock in the morning and finished at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the dinner was starting at 7 o'clock. So it was, you know, one of those creative things that I really wanted to do, to replicate an original Black Forest gâteau, but when you're doing something quite small in comparison, it was quite fiddly, but I was pretty proud of it at the end. When you're on exercise or operations, the way to a troop's heart is through their belly. And that's the way to build morale within the camp, is to make sure that they've got good food. So yeah, I just really enjoy that role as a cook or a chef. Well, when we first went into East Timor, we still had pretty good rations to choose from. However, the conditions in which we cooked were very different. We were lucky enough in our camp, although we were living in tents and showering in tents, and we had portaloos. The actual kitchen building, we were lucky enough to have a brick building, but it was still quite open, and inside we had like a fly-proof tent where we did all of our food preparation. We had what we called our deployable field kitchen equipment, so you had to be imaginative on how you produced a lot of the food. And although we were only in a camp of like 120 people, we were doing up what we call hot box meals for a couple of hundred people that went out to the boys that were out in the field that weren't in the camp. So it was a very challenging time. Now, whilst we were in East Timor, we were armed at all times. When we first went into that location, it was pretty much, the streets were deserted. There wasn't many people there at all. It was senseless destruction. The buildings had been burnt. There was a lot of, like you said, senseless destruction, and you couldn't understand why. It was a little bit nerve-wracking when I can remember the day we first sailed in there on the Jervis Bay, and you could still smell some of that burning smell. I'll never forget that smell. And it wasn't until we actually, because we had our weapons, once you got issued your live rounds, then you kind of went, right, this is not an exercise, this is what we've been trained to do, and here we are. When I then deployed into the Middle East, the most challenging thing was when we actually had members that were lost in action or killed in action. You lowered the flag to half-mast. That was something that you were responsible for. And then you coordinated and conducted, alongside with the RSMs, the reception ceremony and the ramp ceremony to have those boys sent home to their families. And I did 9 ramp ceremonies whilst I was serving there, and not all for Australian soldiers but for coalition soldiers as well. And that was incredibly challenging. Major General John Cantwell was the commander whilst I was there, and just knowing how we lost some of those boys was, I think, the most challenging part of it. But also it was a privilege to send those boys home. really you are the eyes and ears of your commander, whether you're in a base location or whether you're overseas on operations, to gauge the welfare morale of their people. So it's really important that you're out and about and you're talking to people, monitoring people, because people don't have their normal outlets. For example, they can't finish work for the day and get in the car and go for a drive down to the beach, or go to footy training or netball training, or walk the dog. You know, it's so you rely on each other for that little bit of extra support. If there's been a bad experience, for example, if we're in theatre and we've lost someone, that can really affect the camp and everybody else that's in that location, whether you knew that member or not. And so we look at ways of perhaps trying to pick people up. You know, can we have a game of beach volleyball? You know, can we have a movie night? Can we have a dress-up night? It's all about trying to lift those people back up when they've had a bad experience or if they're struggling. And I think because you've been through those experiences and those times as well, you get an understanding of the support that you need or needed at the time, and so therefore the importance of what it is to give to somebody else. For me personally, coming up through the ranks as a female, I don't believe I was ever treated any differently to my male peers. Have we changed our culture? Absolutely. Is it for the best? Yes, it is. And I think the opportunities that are open to females these days in comparison are absolutely amazing. And I think that's why we've seen an increase in numbers, to be honest. You come in as a group of individuals, but you soon realise that you have to work as a team so as to achieve the task so that you can graduate from recruit training. And when you are given certain tasks and given certain challenges, you soon realise that each person has a different strength or a weakness, and so you learn to build your team around those strengths and weaknesses. You learn very quickly that you need to support each other through those different tasks and those challenges. And as a result of that comes, I think, I believe, a whole lot of trust and respect for each other's strengths, weaknesses, abilities, and you, as a result of that, being such a close-knit group for over 10 weeks, you form a special bond, a very special bond. And two of my very dear friends to this day were on recruit training course with me, Sam and Karen. We were the three youngest on course. It's like when you come back off a deployment, you'll seek somebody out that's had a similar experience to you, and you'll have that connection. You'll be able to talk to them because that bond, that sameness, that understanding is there. And that, to me, is camaraderie. I wouldn't be where I am, and I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't have the love and support of my family, and that's very, very important to me. I'm very, very proud of the country that I live in, and I say my affirmations every single morning that I get up, and I say thank you, thank you, thank you, universe, for my waking up on this beautiful day, and thank you, thank you, thank you for my being able to live in such a beautiful, peaceful part of this world. Because when you've served overseas in different locations and you've seen what conditions other people live in or the opportunities that they don't have, you can't help but be grateful for what we do have in this wonderful country of ours. The reason I love what I do and why I'm still doing it is that I believe it's an absolute honour and a privilege to wear this uniform and to support the airmen and airwomen of the Royal Australian Air Force. That's an absolute honour. That's why I do what I do.